Hello, welcome to the Mayor's Office of Contract Services information session on the Human Services Disclosure Reform. My name is Ashley Fleming, Associate Director of the Vendor Integrity Unit, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jeanette Blanchette, Compliance Analyst of the Vendor Integrity Unit. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. The Mayor's Office of Contract Services, also known as MOCS, leads procurement for New York City. We serve as an oversight and service agency dedicated to making it easier to do business with the city. One of the ways we do that is with our digital procurement system called Passport, which makes it easier to complete procurement tasks and compete for contracts. The Mayor's Office of Contract Services works with agencies, vendors, and providers to ensure the contracting process is fair, efficient, transparent, and cost-effective to the city. Our mission at MOCS is to lead procurement transformation by leveraging expertise, innovation, and a results-oriented mindset. In today's training, we'll begin by providing a brief introduction on why we decided to pursue a human services disclosure reform. Next, we'll provide an overview of the current state of nonprofits contracting with the city and becoming pre-qualified. We'll go over the specifics of the reform, followed by a step-by-step guidance for providers where we'll go over the three main aspects of the reform. To close the session, we'll provide where contractors can find resources and support, followed by a Q&A session. Okay, let's start with the introduction. As you know, MOC's mission is to lead procurement transformation by leveraging expertise, innovation, and a results-oriented mindset. And we do that by keeping in mind the values that will help us achieve our vision of equitable procurement. Those values include accountability, getting results, innovation, leadership, and equity. We know that equity doesn't mean we treat everyone the same. It means that we meet the needs of people to get them to the same place. That's not easy to do in government, and we're held to the standard of proving that we are not treating anyone in an arbitrary way or acting capriciously. In this case, we found a clever solution to achieve equity in our disclosure reform effort. In order to do that, we needed to understand the scale of the problem and who it affects the most, and then address that segment directly. Our analysis makes clear that half of the nonprofits receiving human service awards are only awarded discretionary funds. And so we are creating a simpler 3-question pre-qualification application to make the clearance process easier for that half of the nonprofit sector. We are offering a 30-day extension to all human services contractors to update their audit and charities bureau filings on the PQL application. The timing of this has always been difficult, and of course is critical compliance factor. But given a little grace as nonprofits are still catching up to the pandemic era makes sense and keeps awards and proposals moving along. And finally, for the providers engaged in contracted services to New Yorkers, we need more information, and we'll be asking for that through the PQL later this year. We'll get into the details of all 3 elements of the reform later in this presentation. But first, we want to take a look at the current state of human services contractors. Here we highlight our analysis of the problems currently facing human services contractors. As you may know, the Health and Human Services Accelerator Prequalification Applications, also known as HHS PQL, is one of the 3 prerequisites the City Council requires before agencies can register discretionary contracts or pay our awards in multi-year contracts. Right now, there are 646 nonprofits who have discretionary awards pending this requirement, holding up $60 million of discretionary awards. The easier 3-question PQL application can be used by over 1,000 discretionary awardees that have no programmatic contracts, almost half of the current PQL universe. On the other side of the PQL universe, New York City's Department of Investigation has made clear recommendations to ensure accountability for providers with conflicted transactions. There have been many cases where the city lost millions of dollars due to potentially fraudulent related party transactions and conflicts of interest. The city currently does not ask for information about related party transactions, and since it is the city's duty to safeguard taxpayer dollars, Mox therefore created this disclosure reform to close this gap. So we have two different problems, and we need different solutions. It makes this reform complex to communicate, but it makes sense from an equity perspective. We agree one size does not fit all. So let's have requirements that make sense for small community-based nonprofits and for large human service providers. Let's go more in depth regarding the solutions. The solution we are implementing is a human services disclosure reform. The Human Services Disclosure Reform is a package of reforms that will make the pre-qualification process easier for small nonprofits that receive City Council discretionary awards, and ensure significant human service providers disclose key information necessary for the city to protect taxpayer dollars. The three main outputs of this reform include a short and simple 3-question discretionary pre-qualification application, also referred to as a discretionary PQL. This short PQL is specifically for nonprofits that only receive City Council discretionary awards. We recognize that the pre-qualification application process can be difficult, and we hope to provide some relief with this simple PQL. While the first solution is targeting nonprofits that only receive discretionary awards from City Council, the second solution we are implementing is for both nonprofits and for-profit human services contractors, which is a 30-day extension option for financial statement audits or reviews that are not completed by a CPA on the PQL's due date, and will be added to both the new discretionary PQL and existing HHS Accelerator Prequalification, also known as the HHS PQL. In other words, all human services contractors will be able to request this 30-day extension. And the third and final solution is adding additional disclosure questions to the existing HHS PQL for human services contractors to easily comply with the disclosures required under this new related party transactions and conflicts of interest policy. Let's briefly go over the benefits of this reform. Standard compliance efforts citywide will simplify accountability. A risk-based approach reduces barriers and targets resources to support providers. We are reducing time for small community-based organizations to get paid. And we're safeguarding taxpayer dollars and increasing transparency. Next is the implementation plan for this reform. Our goal is to inform providers and agencies with the upcoming requirements and to ensure they have enough support along the way as we roll this out. On the screen is our implementation timeline, which outlines the key steps and milestones for executing this reform. Since March, Mox has been consistently pursuing vendor communications and engagements through emails, newsletters, and social media and presenting this reform. In early April, the new discretionary PQL will be launched in Passport. And remember that this PQL will have the 30-day extension option for financial statements audits and 990 filings. Similarly, this 30-day extension will also be added to the existing HHS PQL in May. In August, Mox will add the additional related party transaction / conflicts of interest disclosure questions. Contractors will only need to answer these questions once their 2024 HHS PQL expires.
Now that we covered the overview of this reform, let's walk through the PQL processes step by step so you can confidently complete the pre-qualification tasks on your own. First, let's review the discretionary PQL. The discretionary PQL is an efficient PQL for discretionary awardees only. The discretionary PQL will only include 3 questions which will allow New York City to verify compliance with legal filing requirements. Before beginning the application, the vendor should confirm it was assigned a Procurement Level 2 role, which is required to sign and submit the application. Once submitted, the application will be reviewed for approval. An approved application is valid for 3 years or when your organization's required documentation expires, whichever occurs first. To access the discretionary PQL, the organization will need to log into Passport using their organization's credentials. To locate from the Passport homepage or anywhere in Passport Central, click or hover over RFX in the top navigation and select Browse Pre-Qualified List from the drop-down menu. To search for the discretionary pre-qualification application, type DIS in the keywords field. Click the search button and the list will display in the table below. Click the PQL ID or PQL label to view the returned discretionary pre-qualification application. You will then need to go to the Overview tab and click the Create New Application button located at the top of the page. After creating the application, click on the Organization Information tab on the left to answer the 3 questions in the discretionary pre-qualification application. Question 1 asks to upload the organization's Board of Directors list. Question 2 asks to upload the organization's Conflict of Interest policy. To upload documents, you can either click on the box or drag the file into the box. To upload required documents, such as the Charities Bureau annual filing, click the Documents tab on the left to view the Required Documents section. Click the Manage Document button to edit the required document in this PQL application. The Manage Document window will then open. Here you will be able to link an existing file in this document section or upload a file from your computer to the application. You must upload all required documents in a combined PDF as certified in the questionnaire. Next, you will have to upload the organization's most recent Charities Bureau annual filing or supporting documentation for filing an exemption. After doing so, you will need to certify your documentation by clicking on the Answer dropdown. The Answer dropdown will include one of 8 available options based on whether your organization 1. is new to filing, 2. requests a 30-day extension to file a copy of the financial statement, or 3. certify the amount of revenue your organization annually makes and the associated compliance report. After answering all 3 questions, you will need to submit the discretionary PQL. To do so, click the Submit for Review button, then click the Sign and Submit Application button to proceed to the electronic signature. To electronically sign the application, read the statement and then click the I certify all of the above checkbox. After clicking that checkbox, the electronic signature window will refresh and the Sign button will appear to the left of the Cancel button. Click the green Sign button and you will have submitted the discretionary pre-qualification application. Let's now go into more detail regarding the 30-day extension option available for all human services contractors. So, we just went over the discretionary PQL, which is only for nonprofits who receive only City Council discretionary awards. You saw in the discretionary PQL that there was an option to request a 30-day extension to file a copy of the financial statement. This option will also be included in the existing HHS PQL in May, which all human services contractors can access. To be clear, all human services contractors will have the option to request a 30-day extension for financial statement audits or reviews that have not been completed by a CPA when the PQL is due. To request an extension, human services contractors have the option to 1. Certify that the organization's revenue is between $250,000 and $1 million, upload a copy of the filed CHAR 500, IRS 990, and upload a letter requesting a 30-day extension on letterhead to file a copy of the CPA-reviewed financial statement. 2. Certify that the organization's revenue is over $1 million, upload a copy of the filed CHAR 500, IRS 990, and a request for a 30-day extension on letterhead to file a copy of the audited financial statement. Now, let's go over how to get to the 30-day extension option in the existing HHS pre-qualification application that, again, all human services contractors will have access to, both for-profits and not-for-profits. First, as always, log into Passport. To locate from the Passport homepage or anywhere in Passport Central, click or hover over RFX in the top navigation and select Browse Pre-Qualified List from the drop-down menu. To search for the HHS Accelerator Prequalification, type HHS in the Keywords field. Click the Search button, and the list will display in the table below. Click the PQL ID or PQL label to view the returned HHS PQL. You will then need to go to the Overview tab and click the Create New Application button located at the top of the page. After clicking on the HHS PQL, go to the Questionnaire tab. In the Questionnaire tab's overview, click the green Access Questionnaire button to view the initial prompt in the questionnaires Business Information section. The Business Information section displays with the prompt to identify your organization's corporate structure. Click the Answer dropdown and select Nonprofit or For-Profit. Next, you will click on the Business Information tab on the left and then scroll to the Documents tab Certification section to find the 30-day extension. After doing so, you will be asked to upload the organization's most recent Charities Bureau annual filing or supporting documentation for filing an exemption. To upload documents, click the Documents tab on the left to view the Required Documents section. Click the Manage Document button to edit the required document in this PQL application. The Manage Document window will then open. Here you will be able to link an existing file in this document section or upload a file from your computer to the application. You must upload all required documents in a combined PDF as certified in the questionnaire. After doing so, you will need to certify your documentation by clicking on the Answer dropdown. The Answer dropdown will include one of 8 available options based on whether your organization 1. Is new to filing, 2. Request a 30-day extension to file a copy of the financial statement, or 3. Certify the amount of revenue your organization annually makes and the associated compliance report. To submit the HHS PQL, click the Submit for Review button. Then click the Sign and Submit Application button to proceed to the electronic signature. To electronically sign the application, read the statement and then click the I certify all of the above checkbox. After clicking that checkbox, the electronic signature window will refresh and the Sign button will appear to the left of the Cancel button. Click the green Sign button and you will have submitted the HHS Accelerator Prequalification.
Let's now move on to the third major part of the reform, which are the additional disclosure questions that will be added to the existing HHS PQL so that human services contractors can easily disclose related party transactions and conflicts of interest, as required by the New York City Conflicts of Interest and Related Party Transactions Policy and Guidance for Contractors of Human Services. Here we have the compliance elements regarding this third part of the reform. We want to showcase that disclosing related party transactions and conflicts of interest have always been legally required for both not-for-profits and for-profits. For nonprofits, there have always been prohibitions on conflicts of interest in the New York State Not-for-Profit Corporation Law. Similarly, all human services contractors who contract with the city have to follow the standard contract and its corresponding Appendix A, which restricts conflicts of interest and related party transactions. For example, Section 4.06C and 4.07 of the standard contract specifically mentions that any improper related party transactions are disallowed costs and will be subject to agency recoupment. Appendix A, Section 2.02 states that the contractor must represent and warrant that neither it nor any of its directors, officers, members, partners, or employees have any interest, nor shall they acquire any interest, directly or indirectly, which conflicts in any manner or degree with the performance of this agreement. The New York City Charter, Section 111, also includes requirements for any charitable institutions that receives any payment from the New York City Charitable Institutions budget. For example, these charitable institutions must preclude any member of their governing board of any institution from sharing, participating, or benefiting directly or indirectly in the proceeds from any contract or transaction entered into between the institution and any third party unless such participation or benefit has been approved in advance by the agency and the governing board of the institution has approved the transaction by a 2/3 majority excluding the vote of the member to be benefiting. In the summer of 2024, Mox notified human services contractors that the cost manual was to be updated to include clarification on the disallowance of costs that present a conflict of interest. Since the summer of 2024, human services agencies have been working on a policy to streamline the vendor process to disclose related party transactions and conflicts of interest. The process eventually became the citywide Conflicts of Interest and Related Party Transactions policy that was adopted by the Vendor Compliance Cabinet, which includes senior level staff of Health and Human Services agencies in January 2025. As we stated before, starting in August, there will be an easy way to disclose related party transactions and potential conflicts of interest for city oversight. Again, contractors will not need to disclose this information until their 2024 PQL expires. Now, let's go into a little bit more detail for the not-for-profit corporation law. In Section 715 nonprofits are required to disclose related party transactions, and that transaction must be disclosed by the related party in question. Related party transactions must be fair, reasonable, and in the non-for-profit's best interest. In addition, they must be approved by independent board members. Alternatives should have been considered before engaging in the related party. This should be documented in minutes and/or resolutions, and the majority of the board should vote to approve. Any related parties that are board members must be recused from this vote. As mentioned before, the Human Services Standard Contract and Appendix A makes costs resulted from related party transactions and conflicts of interest unallowable. In August and September of 2024, MOX updated the Health and Human Services Cost Manual to include definitions for covered person, less than arm's length agreement, and conflict of interest. A covered person means a related party as defined in the New York State Not-for-Profit Corporation Law, Section 102A-23. A covered person additionally includes any member, partner, or employee of a provider and any relative of such individuals, as defined in the New York State Not-for-Profit Corporation Law, Section 102A-22. In addition, we included a new unallowable provision for multiple costs and clarified certain rental costs as unallowable. So you may ask, what was that unallowable provision? The provision made costs in which a covered person has any individual interest that constitutes or presents a conflict of interest unallowable. We defined conflict of interest to exist when the provider of or a covered person has an interest, whether in property, management, control, a transaction, or a legal entity, that could reasonably be viewed as adverse to 1. The provider's obligation to deliver cost-efficient services, or 2. The city's interest in prudently dispersing funds, public funds, only for reasonable and necessary expenses which the provider incurs while providing services pursuant to the terms of its city contract and this fiscal manual. Less than arm's length agreement was defined as an agreement under which one party to the agreement is able to control or substantially influence the actions of the other, and is defined further in 2 CFR Law, Section 200.465C. Let's go a little bit more into the citywide conflict of interest and related party transaction policy. The policy clarifies that conflicts of interest and improper related party transactions are disallowable costs and may not be charged to the New York City agencies by human service contractors. A brief overview of the policy includes: the contractor completes the HHS PQL, and any disclosed transactions or conflicts of interest will be reviewed by the contracting agency. The contractor must respond to any follow-up requests sent by the contracting agencies within 30 days. The contractor must comply with the contracting agency's determination on the related party transaction and/or conflict of interest. If the transaction is unallowable, the contracting agency will disallow the cost of the transaction and may require corrective actions. Now let's go over what the new disclosures in the HHS Accelerator Prequalification application will be. But first, how do we get there? To find those new disclosure questions in your HHS PQL application and passport, you will need to go to the Business Information section within your questionnaire and answer the question where nonprofits and for-profits will need to identify their corporate structure. Select the corporate structure from the drop-down menu. Once corporate structure is identified, nonprofits and for-profits will be asked different disclosure questions. If your corporate structure is nonprofit, you will need to answer these next group of questions. The first question asks about related party transactions. The question is, from the beginning of the last IRS Form 990 reporting period to the present, did the contractor have any business transactions, make any payments, and/or enter into any related party transaction with a related party or related organization? If you select yes, you will need to provide the name of the related party, amount and purpose of the payment, funding sources, and any related written agreements, if applicable. The next question asks about compensation from a related party or related organization. From the beginning of the last IRS Form 990 reporting period to the present, did any of the contractors, directors, officers, key persons, and/or their relatives receive compensation from any related party or related organization in addition to compensation from the contractor? If you respond yes to this question, you may need to identify the individuals involved, the name and EIN, or the related party/related organization that paid compensation, the purpose of the transaction, amount of the transaction, and all funding sources of compensation. This question is about financial interest. From the beginning of the last IRS Form 990 reporting period to the present, did any of the contractors, directors, officers, key persons, or any relatives of a director, officer, or key person have any beneficial interest or financial interest, whether direct or indirect, in any transaction involving the contractor, any related party, or related organization? If yes, identify the individuals involved, including the names, the EIN for the entity involved in the transaction, the nature of the financial or beneficial interest, the transaction purpose, and all funding sources associated with this transaction. This question asks about ownership interests. From the beginning of the last IRS Form 990 reporting period to the present, did any of the contractors, directors, officers, or key persons, or any relatives of a director, officer, or key person have real property and/or an ownership interest of 5% or more, whether direct or indirect, in any entity doing business with the contractor, or any related party or related organization, or beneficial ownership of any privately held subcontractors and vendors for payments exceeding $100,000. This includes landlords, maintenance providers, food vendors, and/or major suppliers. If you answer yes to this question, you need to identify individuals involved and those who have had ownership interests, including the name and EINs of the entity doing business with the contractor, the nature of this business, and provide any written agreements governing the transaction, including a description of the beneficial ownership of the real property. For example, is it a landlord or sublessor? This question asks about compliance with the disclosure statement requirement in the not-for-profit corporation law. In the last 12 months, did each director complete a conflicts of interest disclosure statement in accordance with not-for-profit corporation law, section 715A, section C? If you answer no to this question, you must explain why. This question is about compliance with competitive bidding requirements. From the beginning of the last IRS Form 990 reporting period to the present, did the contractor fail to comply with competitive bidding requirements and the New York City Human Services Standard Contract, Section 4.05B, in a connection with any transaction that has not been reported in this pre-qualification application? If you answer yes, you will need to describe the procurement that did not comply with the requirements, names of individuals and/or entities that benefited from the transaction, explanation on why the procurement was awarded in a manner that did not comply with requirements, include the program name that funded the transaction or if allocated to indirect cost rate, and contract numbers if applicable. If you answer not applicable, you must explain why. The final question for nonprofits is about board procedure requirements. Did the contractor fail to comply with the Not-for-Profit Corporation Law, Section 715A, required procedures in connection with any transaction that has been reported in the pre-qualification application, included but not limited to disclosure of the potential conflict, recusal of the conflicted director or officer, board consideration of alternate transactions, board approval, and contemporaneous documentation of board actions? If no, you must explain why. If yes, you need to provide date of board deliberation and vote, documentation and/or minutes for each board action, and conflict of interest disclosure statements disclosing potential conflicts. Now, let's briefly go over the disclosure implementation schedule for most nonprofit providers. In August 2025, the disclosure questions will be added to the HHS Accelerator PQL. Providers with fiscal years ending September 30th will answer questions for period starting October 1st, 2023. In November 2025, providers with fiscal years ending December 31st will answer the questions for period starting January 1st, 2024. In February 2026, providers with fiscal years ending March 30th will answer questions for period starting April 1st, 2024. In May 2026, providers with fiscal years ending June 30th will answer questions for period ending July 1st, 2024. Now, let's go over the question for for-profits that they will need to answer when completing the HHS PQL application. The first question will ask about conflicts of interest. From the beginning of the last fiscal year to the present, did the contractor or a covered person have any interest that presents or constitutes a conflict of interest in accordance with the City of New York Health and Human Services Cost Policies and Procedures Manual? If yes, you will need to provide the name of the parties involved, the purpose of the payment, all funding sources for the transaction, and any written agreements if applicable. The next question is about less than arm's length agreements. From the beginning of the last fiscal year to the present, did the contractor enter into a less than arm's length agreement? If yes, you will need to provide the name of the parties involved, purpose of the payment, all funding sources for the transaction, and any written agreements if applicable. This is the final question. Here is the disclosure implementation schedule for for-profit providers. In August, the disclosure questions will be added to the HHS Accelerator PQL. For-profit human service providers will answer the questions when the HHS Accelerator PQL application expires.
Next, let's talk about resources and support that you will find useful. To see where you can find and access the citywide related party transaction and conflict of interest policy, please go to the MOCS Contract Compliance Support webpage. Yes, all human services contractors are required to adhere to the citywide related party transaction and conflict of interest policy, even though the policy is currently on the MOCS Nonprofits Contract Compliance Support webpage. For-profit contractors are also required to answer additional disclosure questions in the HHS PQL, which will be added in August 2025. You can access our Learning Resources Library page by visiting nyc.gov/learnpassport. On that page, we recommend using the panel on the right to get to the topics you're interested in. You will also be able to find some resources in Spanish. Remember to visit the Trainings tab on nyc.gov/learnpassport. There, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for future trainings and see webinar recordings. Still have questions or need help navigating Passport? Check out our MOCS help page by visiting nyc.gov/MOCShelp. You can review answers to frequently asked questions to address your passport issues. To submit an inquiry to the MOCS Service Desk, you would click the link at the bottom of the page. If you need to submit a Service Desk ticket, here are some reminders. 1. Submit your Service Desk ticket. Make sure you include the correct contact information, especially a phone number if you want them to call you back. Add details and explanations along with screenshots. 2. Get the confirmation email and respond to it. You should also make note of your SD ticket number from the confirmation email. It will start with MH. 3. Get response email or call. Response time is 10 to 14 business days after confirmation email. Do not submit multiple tickets for the same issue. If you have any questions regarding this reform, please email mocsviu@vendorintegrity@mocs.nyc.gov. Thank you for watching.